Welcome again to another edition of Drummer Nation, the show for drummers where we talk about all things drum and drum related with the best in the world. Today is no exception. Please say hello to my co-host and partner in crime, Mr. Adam Nussbaum. How are you, sir?
Better to be seen than viewed.
Always.
Absolutely.
And groaning at the top of your screen is an industry legend and an icon, Andy Zildjian, who happens to be the CEO of Sabian Cymbals, which is a convoluted story. Hello, Andy. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks. Hello, Adam.
Hey, man, good to be with you.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, we're going to dance delicately around this because you are a Zildjian, and the Zildjian family is the patriarch of cymbals in the world going back for hundreds of years. And if people don't know, there was a schism there, and Sabian was begat of Zildjian in the late 70s, early 80s, something like that.
Well, originally, the origins start in 1968, right? Okay, so that's like. Do you want me to go into the story?
No, that's right.
No, okay, all right,
yeah. I don't want to focus on that. Just so that people say, wait a minute, Andy Zildjian, who is he? Because a lot of people don't know that that's the same family, different aspects of the same family with the two leading companies in the world. All right, so that's why Andy's here.
Thanks, boss.
But we're not here to disparage anybody's stuff. Everybody makes great stuff, and people have a great deal of choice these days, more than ever. But let's talk a little about the cymbal industry. I thought of you right away in recent news because cymbals, the best ones, are 80-20 bronze. 80-20 means 80% copper, 20% tin. And what's been going on with the copper deal? We have a president who's a thorn in your side right now, right?
Not just mine, but yeah. And for many, many different reasons. Yeah. The idea of putting a tariff on a taco tariff on copper has taken, let's say, I'm just looking at this though, in 1 week it went from about $5 for a pound of copper to $5.70.
That's what I saw.
For a pound of copper, which is just, really.
And you're buying it by the ton, right?
Oh yeah, we are.
You're not buying a pound.
No, no, we're buying tons. Yeah, and the thing is that so the cost has gone up that much, which we have to pay because that's what the market says. But there's no tariff on it yet, so we'll just wait for that to come down, and then buy a bunch more because we've been in contact with our supplier who is out of the United States. So they buy from Chile or other sources. It gets stockpiled in the States, and then we get from there. And they've said that if tariffs do come, that the market price will still be high, but they have other sources where we can get them from other countries that don't have the tariffs. So instead of having it tariffed going into the United States, and then whatever Canada decides to do because of that being tariffed going into Canada, we get it from another country, a third country where there is no tariff. So we'd be lucky enough to not have to pay that. But the market's still, that's unbelievably high.
But I'm missing something here. If you're sending copper into the United States, there's a tariff. Not. But you are, right? You make cymbals in Canada, and you send them into the U.S. So does that get around it?
So that's always one of the questions, because what do they do at the border? I don't think the border people have any idea what they're doing either. When they had, for I think it was 24 hours, there was a tariff between Canada and the United States. The people at the border had no clue. And so what they did was they just pretty much put everything on hold. And so we waited for that to go away and then resume shipping. So would they be tariff put onto a product that's made out of copper? I don't know. Or is it just copper itself coming in? Who knows?
Who knows, right? Suppose you're importing.
The idea they just write, this is what we want. And so what are the details? No one knows. There are no details.
No one knows. They wanted to put taxes on bananas coming in from somewhere, and we don't grow bananas here. So what's the deal with that? I don't think anybody knows. We don't get political on the show, but this does apply to drums directly because it's going to have a negative impact. Speaking of which, pricing is already going through the roof. I was looking at several. Your competitor, the Big Z, has a 22-inch cymbal that's street price is almost $1,200. That's getting a little nuts. Whereas your Hammer 22, which is a handmade cymbal, very hard to make, is only like $700. Have they already anticipated the increases? Is that what's going on, you think? Or are yours likely to go way up too?
Well, we price based on what it costs us to make it, and
Hmm.
so if the cost of copper goes up, then we will probably have to make a change. I can't say that's the same mentality for all manufacturers. Some of
Hmm.
them, that doesn't play as large a role as it should in pricing, and that's all I'm going to say about that.
No, I get it. There are people hopping on and raising prices across the board on everything.
Yeah, yeah,
In an inflationary cycle.
yeah,
So we've talked about it. Bronze, 80/20 bronze is what their
yeah.
cymbals are made of. You had something in the office I had heard of for many years called a mass spectrometer, where
Oh yeah.
people talk about recipe and formula and all that stuff. 80/20 is 80/20. There are other, I think it's more of a recipe, right? Like, what is the shape of the copper? Is it used? Is it recycled? Is it pellets? Is it bars? What's the temperature? All that stuff I think of as recipe. But we
Well,
took that device and aimed it at a bunch of different products from different manufacturers, and it
mm,
tells you what's in it to the trace elements, and they're 80/20.
yeah, yeah, and look, what you were talking about, the pellets, the different the scrap, etc., that does all affect a symbol farther down the line. Like you can get what's called mealy, where you get something that has a lot of pock marks in it, and you can't use it. And you'll have some that for whatever reason, when you lathe it, it just comes out really too soft, and that
Hmm.
has to do with what you first used as your copper source. But then, of course, if everything were equal in that, there'd still be a difference between what's going on, say, over in Istanbul and what's happening here in North America, because there is a family recipe, and you're right, there is a recipe that if you do it to a certain point, you won't die making the symbol, and and
Kind
that's
of an
that.
important thing for your
It
workers.
is it is,
Try not to
and
kill them at Sabian.
and so far the folks over in the in Istanbul have figured out how to make it so that they don't die making the symbol. Because what you're doing, you're taking that hot piece of metal and you're putting it between two rollers, and it's very hot, and you have water on the rollers so that the rollers don't expand. So what you're creating is a steam explosion. And if you've not done the process correctly up to a certain point, that will explode. And there's been cases where people have died because of that. But then at the same time, they don't have the complete picture, because with that complete picture, you're able to get much more energy transfer around a finished symbol, and it's a very important step that luckily only the family knows.
That's a good explanation. That's a
Mm.
very good explanation. I watched them make
Fascinating.
symbols over there, and it's pretty. I think you've lovingly referred to the facilities at least one of them as the goat shed.
Yeah.
They
Well, they
can't
were.
cast.
They,
They can't.
they,
They were. You
yeah.
can't cast in the rain because it's coming through the ceiling, and
Yeah, and there's a dirt floor.
yeah.
Yeah, and what kills
Yeah.
me is they're wearing like rayon tracksuits and sandals. Like, my God, you guys,
I
have
tried
you
to bring
ever
them
heard of
stuff.
safety?
I would bring them like goggles or gloves or earplugs, and
Yeah.
they wouldn't do it. I was the arrogant American trying to tell them what to do.
Well, even
And
now, like I'll see them at trade shows or something and say, "You guys wearing anything? You wearing just shoes?" And they'll laugh like, "No, we're fine." Okay.
we're talking about
Hey,
all
how
the
many
Turkish
years have they
companies.
been doing it, right? How
Yeah,
many
Yeah, but
yeah.
years have they
how
do?
many toes are they missing that we don't know about?
That's the
Actually,
magic ingredient.
I'll tell you what, Adam. I was
Like
working
the
in
red
the
violin. Go
I
ahead.
was
I'm sorry.
working in the melting room once, and this fellow friend of mine was putting in some extra scrap, and it just had a tiny amount of moisture on it. And with that moisture goes into 2100 degrees, it instantly turns to steam. And I heard boop, and then bang, the door slammed open. It had a,
Mm.
a little tiny piece of that molten metal came and hit him on the shoulder, and it went all the way down. You could see the line going all the way down to his ankle where it solidified,
No
and then
kidding.
and it fell off from there. It didn't stick into the skin, but you could see a line of that heat, that burn going all the way down. So these guys, they're really risking a lot by doing that.
Oh, I saw them cleaning. I saw them using gasoline on cleaning cymbals in an area that has fire. Now everybody knows I was associated with Bosphorus, but I'm just talking about cymbal companies in general. We're not here to bash anybody. They're all trying to make products, but there is quite a difference between, like you probably have a zero emissions facility.
As well, yes,
As
as close
close
as
to
we can. We
possible.
we still use propane now, but we're working on a way of getting beyond that.
And I know they have to cast before dawn because they don't
Mm.
want the neighbors seeing how filthy the pollutants are that they're putting into the air.
Oh, oh,
This is
yeah,
not
that's
just
not
this
good.
company. This is
Yeah,
Turkish cymbal making in general.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right, so let's move on to types of cymbals. We don't want to
Okay.
berate them too much. We have, I mean, you have to make when I was working in this industry, we kind of had one thing we did, and
Yeah.
that's all we did. But you
Mm.
guys do. I mean, you have rides, crashes. We had all these hi hats, splashes, china, effect cymbals. But you also
Hmm.
do band and orchestra.
Yep.
There's a lot of that
Oh,
stuff, right? Do you do
hmm.
white label stuff?
Uh,
Can you talk about that?
we'll do that on the lowest level, brass and some B8 material stuff because uh, we, we don't want to put it on the higher end stuff because our Sabian branded cymbals need to be of a certain quality,
Right.
and we won't compromise on that. Whereas if we're doing an OEM for somebody, they'll say they want this price point. Well, you can't reach that price point and still have great quality, so we won't put our name on it. But if they wanted
Right.
it, then yeah, some of our distributors have OEM, and that's pretty much as far as we go. If we already have an existing relationship and they can prove a reason for it, then we
Right.
will help them out by making an OEM. But that's it.
Now you also have you did a sound library at some point, right? I remember
Oh
doing that.
man, yeah, we've done that a couple of times, and the thing
Hmm.
is that technology keeps changing quickly enough that as soon as you finish it, it's obsolete, right? So yeah,
I know I did
um,
some of that,
yeah,
and
it's
we did it
frustrating, isn't
with.
it?
Oh man, well the company that was doing it was bought by somebody, was bought by somebody else, and
You
Yeah.
on it
know,
goes.
I just want to jump in for the people that don't know. Maybe you want to explain the difference between B8 and B20.
Oh, good point. Yep, good
Good
point.
point.
Yeah,
So yeah, B20 is that's the professional sound. That's the
that's
family
80
secret.
20.
That's 80% copper, 20% tin, and it's really a difficult metal to work with. But if you know how to do it correctly, that becomes a living, growing sound. It's a metal that just keeps changing. Not as much as it does over the first month, but it does keeps changing. It has a personality. It is made because we cast it into a casting form, then we heat it up and we roll it anywhere from 8 to 12 times. And each time we roll it, we're changing the form of the crystals that are in it and melding it all together so that the energy on the inside of that cymbal travels around and from the bell to the edge very easily, and then the hammering changes the way that energy moves. So that's how you create different types of sounds, is by the hammering and the shape of the cymbal itself. So that
Andy, I
yep,
just want to jump in and ask a question. Now, every time the cymbal goes through the rollers,
yep.
because it's going through different times, it's we could almost make the analogy it's like the grain of wood, where the wood grain is going to change. The grain of how the molecules are all lined up is changing. So if you are making a cymbal, let's say an 18-inch thin crash,
Hmm.
even though the process is all the same, after that point, they still may all have a little different character because of the way the grain structure of the metal.
Of the cymbal, yeah. Actually, it's not a grain. It that is the easy way of saying it. I mean, people can really relate to that idea. But what we're doing is we're actually putting the crystals of copper and tin together in a way that they are weaving together and forming this homogeneous mass of living metal. Whereas, like, yes, I suppose the easiest way is to say it's like a grain because it is. It's all ingrained and woven together. Whereas with a B8, because that's only rolled through once, that has a single direction, and we'll call that a single grain, so that the energy traveling in and out goes really well in one area, and then it's fighting against the grain from a different portion of the cymbal, and it also traveling around the cymbal, it doesn't travel nearly as well. So you get a lot of edge vibration, you get a lot of high pitch tone, because what you've done is you've tensed that up, and so the edge is vibrating out and giving you that high pitched sound. But you're not getting that richness, that body that you get from a good B20 cymbal, because that energy just doesn't work the same way.
Well, it's good to talk to somebody who really knows cymbals. One time I was at Music Messe in Germany, and this guy Michael came up and he was talking to me about cymbals, and I thought, well, this guy knows what he's talking about. Most people don't, you know. And
Yeah.
and he knows he's him. He was just a fountain of knowledge. And I said, man, this has been very interesting talking to you, especially interesting to meet somebody who knows so much about cymbals. What's your last name, Michael?
Yeah.
And he says, Peisty.
Yeah.
Let me
Michael
ask a
Peisty's a
question
bright
going
guy.
back. Right. I got another question for you. When
Yes.
they have B8, you're saying it only goes through the roller once. What's happened if it's gone through more than once?
Really, actually, we tried that, and you can do it, but it ends up that it doesn't come through nearly as consistent as you'd want it to, and also because of the 92% copper, 8% tin, which is why it's called B8.
Right.
It does not, the crystals don't form in the same way, so you end up really kind of ending up with a cymbal that's not as good as it would have been if you just left it the first time.
Right. Okay.
Right.
I'm
Strange
just curious
that way.
about the metallurgy and how things work with the way it's fabricated and, done in the process.
It's very
Well, I'm sure that
complicated science.
if Robert Peisty were still alive, we could ask him the questions on how that works with the B8, because Robert was one heck of a guy. He was brilliant. He was able to take that metal that really is, we all look at that as a student line type of sound, and he turned that into professional cymbals. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of intellectual property that is owned by that company because of Robert putting together those sounds, and I don't know them. We've tried R&D ourselves to try to update the way that B8 sounds, and some things work. Like we had the Apex was APX. We did some changes to the cymbal, but they weren't quite as deep and extensive as what Robert did back in the 60s and 70s. He really made a lot of changes with the metal that, as far as I can see, is nearly impossible to change. He did it.
You guys have had your share of innovation as well.
Yeah.
Now, you're dealing with some very tight tolerances, right? I mean, I've seen people just throw some coal in there and they put the cauldron on it, and they put a little more on later, and you're tightly controlling that, right? It's electric heat, or it's specifically managed at certain temperatures, and
Yep. We do that through induction heat, and what that does is it keeps everything at a consistent temperature, so that when you put your copper and tin in, you're not burning off too much tin, you're not under heating the copper. It's like being able to. Okay, so my wife has this cookbook from her grandmother, and it's called The New Method or the Old Method. And the new method is that you take your oven and you put it to a specific degree. The old method is put another log in the fire and hope that all.
try not to burn it. Yeah, new method and
Wow.
old method. Well,
Right.
they both make cymbals, but I'm certain yours are more consistent. And
Oh,
when I
yeah.
say yours, I mean the Western technology way of making cymbals.
Well, there's no doubt, because I mean, yes, when you have more consistent both machinery and also craftsmanship, and you write everything down, then everything does become more consistent. Not to the point where it's bland, but to the point where every cymbal that's in a specific series and a specific type will have almost the same sound. But again, each cymbal being B20, the stuff that is really good has its own personality. So yes, we are all, everybody from one certain area will be generally the same type of person, but they'll have their own personality.
Right. Sure.
The same
Yeah.
influences upon it. It's the same idea that the influences upon that cymbal will generally be the same, except that each one, because it's a living metal, will have a little bit of its own personality to it, a little twist, which is great because
Wow.
drummers can decide whether, I like this sound, I like that sound, but where is my sound? And they can try it out and bang, find their sound. And there's the artistic voice that really, that's what we're all looking for, right?
Right. And that's where companies like My Cymbal, Jim Pettit's company that puts video of each sound, each cymbal you're going to get. I mean, you've seen a lot of changes in distribution, right?
Oh my God, yeah. Well, I mean, distribution used to be that you needed a distributor because communication and being able to talk to and meet with and have a good rapport with music stores was difficult. But now with I mean, look at us right now. We can be talking to a music store for half an hour and answer every question and talk with them about different things, and we've never left the office. It's a completely different story, completely different. And
But also the user experience is completely different too, right? Because now they've grown in the market. They've grown to trust these recordings and not actually and spend $1,000 on a cymbal without putting a stick to it. That's
It's definitely,
unusual.
yeah, it's a different mindset for sure. I mean, but COVID did a lot to change a lot of things. But at the same time, the idea of buying something online was already growing, and a lot of
Oh
that
yeah.
just has to do with the way people purchase anything. Um,
I used to tell
and
the dealers, I'd say, look, people are choosing to buy this way, and it's not up to you and it's not up to me. It's
right,
up to the customers, and
hmm,
they're going to decide with their wallets, and they have, and they are.
yep, oh yeah, no, I agree. It's we have to service their wants and needs. It's not about what we want.
It's a demand-driven economy.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's the best way to do it, I think.
Well, and
Uh,
especially when we're talking about a musical instrument, it's something that's very personal. It's not like,
right.
I'm just going to be buying a connector for my computer. What does
Well,
that matter? I can
I
get
was
that.
looking at one of your lesser, I don't want to say lesser, a different line, the Stratus line, which
Yeah.
seemed to split that difference between super expensive, totally handmade, and some machining process. And man, they sounded great. And they were
Yeah.
like $400 instead of nine.
What
What are you
it,
doing differently there?
well, I can't really tell you that, Mike, but at
You could, but you'd have to kill me, right?
yeah, that's it.
I don't want
But
that.
at the same time, really, it comes back to, again, it's that we price things by what it costs us to make that.
Right. But did I
And
get that right? That's the point of that line, right? Is
oh
to,
yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Randy and Mark were looking around trying to figure out what everybody wanted at that point. And we ask artists, we ask
right,
stores, we ask people online,
right.
what are you looking for? What's different?
Well, what are they
And
looking
that's what
for? What are
everybody
those
wanted.
trends? They want
At
something
that
less
at
expensive.
that point, yep, at that point everybody was looking for something that had that nice, good rich sound, but didn't cost as much as it does to buy, an HH.
Same thing in drums, right? I mean, people buying
Yeah.
kits that are $500 and they sound pretty damn good.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, what did they call it? The Whopper. Is it called the Whopper
I don't
comparison
know.
or something? Where you get, and every year the Whopper stays the same. The price, yeah, I can't remember what it is, but yeah.
So, what are the trends
For me,
in some?
for
Go ahead,
me,
Adam.
wait, I just want to say something which I find difficult is I think it's, we're dealing with the reality of now the internet and marketing and everything happening online. And, at the end of the day, I need to hear the music, the cymbal with
Mhm.
music around it. I've heard a cymbal sometimes by itself that sounds pretty good, but then I get it in context and it doesn't seem to have a satisfying effect. I've got one cymbal that I've been using for years. You hear it by itself, you go, it's okay. But
Mm.
once it gets within the music, then it seems to just work beautifully. And, for me, maybe that's because I'm an analog man in the digital world, but it's like, I have to play it. I have to know how it's
Hmm.
going to be because, we still have to deal with that X factor.
Hmm.
Everybody's got a different touch.
Right.
Hmm.
Everybody uses a different stick. You get 10 guys playing the same cymbal, there's going to be a different character. So I don't know.
I always thought that if I had the Tony Williams Nefertiti cymbals,
Forget it.
and
It ain't.
if I had them, somebody who would play it and say, these sound great, but I'm really looking for something like Tony would have played on
Yeah.
Nefertiti.
Yeah.
you know, like they're not going to know if they hear it really, because it's like you've always
Well,
said, Adam. It's not the brush, it's
it's
the
a, it,
painter.
yeah, it's the painter, not the
Yep.
brush. What's your touch? What's going to happen? And it's fascinating. It's just fascinating with symbols, and the whole thing has been It's incredible because it's a piece of metal.
Mm,
And,
yeah.
everything that's done as the way it's treated and fabricated creates something. And the way it's going to vibrate and breathe, and over time, the way things change. And then it comes up to the person that's playing it. So it's
Very complicated process. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people will ask me, how is it that drummers can play the same thing and sound differently? And the shortest and easiest answer is that's the instrument,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And just for people who aren't drummers, that's the instrument. Mine's not like yours. Everybody's is different, so it's easy to have a totally different sound off of the same everything exactly the same because our
Well,
physicology is different.
two guitarists sound different on the same guitar.
No,
Um,
they don't. Same thing.
I've sat down at world class drummers' kits, and I can't get
Yeah,
their sound.
yeah, yeah.
They stand up and I sit down. It's the same damn kit, and I cannot get their sound. You're going to
Right.
sound like you, which is ultimately the best thing for everybody, right?
Well, this also it's when I'm talking with endorsers and they say, "Do you play?" So yeah, I do, but I try not to tell them that I do because then they start asking me about technique.
Hmm.
And Voz, my technique is I'm just having fun. Leave me alone.
Nothing wrong with
amen.
that.
That's
Yeah,
that's why they
You know,
say play.
yeah,
I
exactly.
got called on that yesterday. I was
You did?
teaching a student, and because I'm a pro, I teach everything like, well, if you're on the gig or if you're playing, he said, look, man, I'm not going to play a gig. I just want to have
Mm,
fun on the kit. And I thought, damn it, he's right.
yeah, that's the point.
I'm relaying it all as a professional and how this will get you the gig, and you better not play that. And you should learn this. And he says, Um, Now you also have to deal with a lot of. It's almost, you have these young guys coming up who are buying blanks or they're
Mhm.
rehammering symbols that have been out there. I
Yeah,
remember when I had Bosphorus, you had an interview where you said, "Well, what is a brand really?" Because we do business in, well, I don't know, 40 countries. I think you said. Uh,
121 right now.
there you go.
Yeah.
All these countries, all over the world. I mean, what are you going to call a brand? Is it somebody who can make 20 symbols in a couple of months and sell them to their friends? Or what has been the impact in the industry of the 50 different young cymbal companies out there that don't really cast or anything?
Well, that's an interesting question because there are a few out there who really do have something to say.
Right.
Like for example, Paul Francis is one of those people. He has something to say, and so does Timothy Roberts has something to say,
Hmm.
and so those are interesting makers where you can hear that they're what they're trying to put into the symbol. If you compare it to other symbols, you compare it to large, more consistent brands, I guess we'll say, more international brands. You can hear a difference in personalities in their symbols. I think the strength that they have is that every one of their symbols is theirs and not consistent with everything else that they make. They have a wide range of things. It does make it difficult to buy online, but at the same time, they have done a pretty good job of not only getting them to stores, but also having them online so you can try them out. Um,
Hmm.
Not you personally, but you get to hear them. Um, what is a brand? Really, that's a good question because so much of a brand nowadays is validating a selection, an idea. If you know that you can find something that is good and consistent, and you know it's going to be backed up by not only quality control but also warranty, and then something new, something that fits your personality, your musical voice. To me, that's more of a brand than just a name because it's been there for a while.
Good answer. There's no
Mm,
wrong answer there. Let me
yeah,
ask you about warranties.
yeah,
We all know that, like, you shouldn't have the thinnest cymbal you can find if you're going to play with against a Marshall stack.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And if you opposite is true, if you're working with a little jazz trio playing bebop, you don't need a big honking bell and a
Mm.
12-pound cymbal. So you have to accommodate all those people.
Oh, definitely. Well, I mean, that's why we have such a wide range of symbols from which to choose. I mean, everything, HH, artisan, all the way down to the Stratus we were talking about, or even XSR, which is same idea as a Stratus, but with less refinement, so it doesn't have quite as much personality to it.
The other big thing that's important to you guys is marketing. I mean,
Right.
that's such a giant part of the industry. How
Hmm.
has that all changed now? It used to be print ads. There isn't even any. There's no real print ads anymore.
I very few print ads I've ever seen, and most of them have been in things like Percussive Notes, which is the Percussive Art Society,
Right.
and that's pretty much it. But really, everything being online and social media is good. You get to see things, and you get to be exposed to new players, new playing, um, new voices of interesting interpretations of music. But the things that you can find on a website that can give you a deeper understanding of each symbol are so much better live and on the web than they could ever be in an advertisement, a static printed
Right.
advertisement. Printed
Right.
advertisements were pretty. You could make some beautiful shots and interesting things, but to understand what it is you're listening to and to know the different things that the different voices that you can have, this is incredible, so much
Hmm.
better. And like we were talking about earlier, you wanted to get the sound catalogs, and they keep changing.
Right. Sound
Yeah,
libraries. Um,
we can sort of keep that rolling as bit by bit, but
so is it less artist focused than it was before?
well, yes, it is for two reasons. One, it's not a static ad, so you don't have to have that validation up there,
Right.
um, and also it's more in tune with the sound of each symbol, so that the player can hear what it is that they'd be interested in buying, not just because so and so plays it, but because this is what I want to play. This is
Hmm.
the sound I'm looking for. Is this me? Is this what I want? No, this
Right.
isn't quite it, but I can move on to the next series or size and weight, and
Hmm.
oh, okay, now I'm finding my voice. I look, to me that's so much better, because what we're trying to facilitate is a musician's artistic voice.
Right. And they may love a certain drummer, but that's not their voice. And
Right. Yeah.
um,
I mean, look, you remember the radia, the
no, what
Terry
is that?
Bozzio radia that we made?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't lathed; it was lathed in and out. I mean, okay, so I love Terry and the way he plays. I would have a difficult time playing that cymbal.
Hmm.
It's not my voice. At the same time,
A little
when
too
you wanted to
specific.
play something like Terry, then that's the one to get. Right.
So you still do trade shows, right?
Not so many. I mean, trade shows have sort of lost their appeal.
Right.
Um, if there were more consumers at a trade show, I'd be much happier to go to a trade show, which is why I love PASIC so much, because it's almost all consumers. It's
You're singing
people
my
who
song
are
here, man.
playing.
Let's go over that because people don't understand that. They want to go to NAM as a kid in a candy store, and they don't
Yeah,
realize that NAM is a music merchandise. It's a dealer convention.
right.
And the manufacturers are there to have access to the dealers who place
Mhm.
orders, and that's what the whole thing is about. And they don't. It's not set up for people to walk around and play instruments and talk to the reps. They're there to sell cymbals to dealers.
Pretty
Whereas
much, yeah.
PASIC
Mm,
is a drummer event. You can walk
right.
up to Andy Zildjian in the Sabian booth at PASIC and talk cymbals, whereas at NAM he's got a lot to do. You know,
Well, yeah, at NAM, people are coming up to the booth and they're talking about inventory. They're talking about costs. They're talking about, shipping dates and that type of thing. At PASIC, people are coming up and saying, what does this symbol sound like? That is so much more satisfying.
I always had a better time there. Yeah, the
Yeah,
nuts and bolts and all that—that's one thing. But
yeah.
I asked Remo Belli that once. I said, Remo, I
Mm,
think I'm just guessing that you're way more interested in the artistic side of this than the nuts and bolts.
mm.
And he said, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt.
No doubt about that. Um, how about the little tiny, the small shows, like the Chicago show, the Nashville show? That's used. They started as vintage shows, but a lot of new gear
Right.
is presented there too. I think I
Yeah, you're
saw you
right.
guys.
They did start as vintage shows because it was just a place to exchange
Mhm.
older vintage drums and drum sets and pieces. But yeah, they have grown just because, again, it's people who are players coming together to a share the passion, right, which is great, and the other part is to be able to hear and try out instruments that you can't hear or play anywhere else. And it is. It's about our shared passion for our instrument.
It really is. Now, during COVID, they had to do it online, and there are certain advantages
Yeah.
to that, because if you're, you know how it is. There's 3 or 4 events you want to see at the same time.
Yeah.
So people are always walking in and out of shows. Nobody's offended at that because we all want to see as much as we can. But online, you don't have that problem.
Well, that's true. I can't speak to what PAS might be doing with that, because
Yeah, I don't know either.
yeah, it's not anything that I'm a part of. But yes, I do remember when they had that, and it was easy. You could just, today I'm going to be watching Weckel. Tomorrow I'm going to be watching Steve Gadd, and then to pick a day, and you can pick different times, and you could see everything. You're right. That was fantastic. I do think for members that you can pick up and watch those recorded performances
Oh, that's
after.
good.
I think so.
I should
think
know
so.
that too, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now, what do you see the trends in the industry right now? Is it larger cymbals? I know you had cymbals with holes in them for a while. Didn't you guys come up with that?
So yeah, we did. We had one of the people working at one of our marketing agencies said, "Okay, I'm declaring this. Every new cymbal we make has holes in it."
Well,
said, no. That's not how innovation works.
No. Now, I did pick this up from Chris at the National Show last year. What do you do with the holes you cut out of them? Well, you can do that.
Yeah, yeah. There we go.
That
Cymbal.
is a sizzler that I don't like most of them, because when you put this on the cymbal, this hangs right where the stick hits. But you can double it over like that, and it works just fine. I'm trying to hit the camera for you. But
It's
that's
working.
something creative to do with the holes you cut out of the cymbals. Besides,
Hey, you can make earrings. You could do all kinds of stuff.
there was a time we looked into making zills, they called them, jingles for tambourines, out of this stuff.
Yeah.
Like hand
Yeah,
hammered
actually, so we
zills.
looked into that too because of gone bops. But the problem that we have with them is that they don't sound as good
Exactly.
as like a stainless steel.
They're more expensive and they don't sound as good.
Right.
Other than that,
Yeah, perfect.
do you ever have these guys come up to you that have an idea for a cymbal, and they'll give you something like a felt washer or some little tiny thing, and you say, "Well, that's nice. What do you want me to do with it?" I say, "Well, you should give them away with every cymbal you sell." And I would say,
we just raised
that's
the
a great
price of
business
cymbals
model.
because-
I got a better model. Why don't you give one of my cymbals away with every one of those things you sell? They didn't like that. That I was being arrogant. But that's what I was getting at as a brand. I've had several people come to me and say, I had this little product out and it did well, and I make 10,000 a year or something, and that's not a living. What should I do? And I always say, invent something else.
Well, yeah.
It's a tabletop business, as Peter Erskine calls it. Just that's what it is. You did great. Congratulate yourself. But you're not going to retire on that.
That's the thing. I've seen a lot of really good ideas, and the people who are making them are trying to make their own business, and they're going to be captains of industry. And really, at the point is, you look and say, but it's such a good idea, but it's so niche. Maybe you should license it to somebody else who could make it more available to even more people.
But even when you license it, some of these guys have licensed it, and it's not a living, Okay, fine.
Oh, no, you're right. It's not a living. But at the same time, who is that guy? Dyson, the guy who invented the vacuum and all that. He started off with like 2 or 3 different ideas, and then because he licensed them and he made thousands of different ideas.
Don't you wish the cymbal industry was larger? Do you think the percussion industry is getting larger or smaller? Because when I got into this, I couldn't believe how small these companies actually were compared to what we call giant. I used to call for techs for support. If your company has less than 400 employees, hit one. Well, that's like everybody in the percussion industry.
I think there's maybe Yamaha is the only company
Pearl,
not.
Maybe,
that's it. No, even Pearl's small as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
and you're right. This
that.
is not a big industry. And then a lot of people who will say things like, well, you guys got money. Like, no, we don't actually. I mean, we have enough to be doing operations and doing things well and having some leftover at the end of the year, but we're not, just bathing ourselves in cash.
But is it still growing? Because there was a time when the industry was growing exponentially, right? Back in the 70s and 80s.
Back in the 70s, 80s, and even into the 90s, it was growing very quickly. But acoustic drums have been shrinking since 2008, I believe, that's the real tipping point. And it's been kind of frustrating to watch because there are so many great sounds and so many great instruments that are being made, and yet that there are 8.5 billion people in the world. So as a percentage, the percentage of players is going down, and the number of players is staying mostly static. So that's okay. We can work with that. But wow, it is becoming more difficult to be an acoustic company.
Well, some of the industry guys I know in that field say that electric drums are outselling acoustic drums.
Yes, and I understand that people live in places like apartments, and they have houses with other people, and they want to be quiet. But at the same time, I don't want to disparage them too much, but I do call it the beaten dog syndrome. If you are used to playing a electronic kit, that's the feel and the sound that you become used to. Kind of like a dog that's beaten every day doesn't know what it's like to be cared for, right?
That's
and
exactly
then,
right.
But once you do sit down behind a kit that's acoustic, and you can feel that energy coming back,
Right.
and all of a sudden the feeling is completely different. Your
Right.
hands don't hurt anymore,
And the sound comes from what you're actually doing. One of the problems with electronic drums is you're hearing, and I play, I have them all, I do all that stuff, but you're hearing giant sounds. In some instances, really great, gigantic sounds, and we know what it takes as a drummer to do that. But you end up playing way too hard because you don't need to play the way it takes to make that sound.
There's also that statement, it's like, are you hitting it or are you learning how to touch it? And learning how to pull a sound out. My whole life being an acoustic drummer has been working at achieving a sound, which comes from how I address the instrument. And I just think of all those great recordings that were made in the 50s and stuff like that. They'd put one mic on the whole drum set. It was up to the individual to give that engineer a balanced sonic palette that worked as a homogeneous, harmonious instrument. And now that's the one thing. I'm being granted there's a lot of validity to the electric drum, and Andy brought up this point. If you're living in an apartment, bada bing, bada boom, whatever.
Easy to record.
It's changing something. It's just changing things, and it's can't be denied.
At the same time, I've got a group of friends who are engineers and recording specialists, and whenever they have a song that they really like, they need to take out the electronic drums and put in acoustic because the feel completely changes. Even in a recording, it just makes that much of a difference, so that it takes it from being a song that sounds good, that you can hear it, that might be a nice karaoke piece, to something that has real emotion and power to it, that acoustic sound. Even if you're not there, just the hearing that acoustic sound makes so much difference. All those little echoes that come through a drum and bleed into everything else, the whole personality, they need to change that over. And they'll do things like leave the keyboards, leave everything else as electronic digital sound, but the drums have to be different.
And it's up to the guy who plays it.
I have a buddy of mine. He says digital may sound better, but analog feels better.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a good point. Dave Maddox told me a great.
It kind of breaks it down.
Dave Maddox told me a great story when he was working with Glyn Johns. The guy who was instrumental in developing drum sounds and recording techniques.
Mic techniques.
Yeah, and so Dave said he played a piece and he said, that cymbal of cross over there is a little too loud in the way you've got it set. And he said, well, next time, don't play it so effing hard. In other words, you're making a sound, man. I'm just recording what's there. Don't hit the cymbal too hard and blame the engineer on it.
Right.
Now, do cymbals and drums do top out volume wise, right? I mean, there is that. They're only going to get so loud. And cracked cymbals, what do you think of that? I used to think if you break a stick, you buy another one. If you break a drum, you buy another one. If you break a cymbal you've had for 3 or 4 years, there wasn't anything wrong with the cymbal. You broke it. I know it's icy, dicey
Oh,
territory there.
okay. So yes and no. I mean, there's so many parts that go into it, right? I mean, how does anything break? Um, I can tell you something like uh, we had a cymbal that was out back in the '80s that I thought was an absolutely beautiful sounding cymbal, fantastic. And when you went into a store and you hit it and say, "Oh my God, this is what I got to have," you take it home and then you start hitting it from here, and now
Hmm.
you got a crack in the edge. Well, that's I can't say that's a manufacturing defect.
Right, right.
It was a defect in the way
That's
that you
what
were
I'm getting
choosing
at.
your symbols. Yeah, the way you were choosing your symbols. But I mean, nowadays, I mean, symbols. If you pick the right symbol, it should be able to flex and give you everything that you're looking for. If you're picking it and you're trying it out the way that you're going to play it, you're going to get that sound. If you're not, then you're asking for a break. You're just dying for it.
Getting the right instrument for the situation. What's the situation warrant? You know, you're
Mhm.
not going to play like a thin cymbal if you're playing heavy metal. It's stupid. Wrong tools for the job.
And you know,
Exactly.
I've listened to a bunch of players, and I'll listen to them play and hear the symbols that they're using, and think, you know, I would not have chosen that symbol. I would have picked something with a little more fortitude to it, a little more strength than coming through. But if you play that in a recording and it's a little bit quieter, you're not hitting it as loudly because it's not live, then it probably
Right.
is a perfect symbol for what you're playing. But yeah, it's like, well, okay, I'm going to shill a little bit here. Okay, so Todd Zuckerman is coming out with new line of crashes coming up
I love
in the
Todd, by
fall.
the way. Great guy.
He's a great
Great
guy.
drummer,
Now,
great guy.
and I'll tell you a quick story about it too. But it's he's got two um, different sounds in it. He's got one that's specifically for recording, so it's a little bit lighter, and one that's for performance, so it's got a little more punch to it. So okay, so I'll give you a story about these because it was back in April or something. I get this way if I'm getting too many numbers and I'm doing too much, administrative work and management stuff. It kind of drives me nuts. So I have to go down to the vault and take out some symbols and start hitting them. It just sort of calms me down and reminds me of that this is why I have to put up with that stuff so that I can get this stuff.
Hmm.
And I had one day where I was really upset with just a whole bunch of dumb things going on. And I went down to the vault and I was listening to my symbols and calming down. And I said to Ted, the guy who's testing symbols next to me, I said, Ted, what are these over here on the R&D thing? He goes, oh, those are the new Todd Zuckermans. I go, okay. So I hit one and wow, that's a really good sounding cymbal. And then I hit another one that was a little bit bigger and thought, holy cow, these things are killing. What the heck? And then I hit one that when I hit it, all the hair on it just stood up because it was one of
Yeah.
those symbols that when you hit, you go, "Oh my God, that's the voice I'm looking." Oh my, that thing is unbelievable. And I looked at him and said, "Randy," because Randy was the guy who was doing R&D at that point. And he said, "Yep, all Randy." So I went up and I found Randy Ross and I gave him a big hug because oh man, that symbol and all of them have that strength to them without being overbearing. There's just something about that energy transfer in
And
that
this is
in a symbol that
a next release. It's not out yet, right?
yeah, it's not out, which is really frustrating because I was like, oh my God, we got to get the people in, they got to
PASIC,
get
right? That's when you release them. PASIC.
yeah, basic.
PASIC is like the pre-release for the NAMM show in January.
Yeah. Well, actually, we don't go to the NAM show. Yeah, because
I
again, it's really we're not talking to players. We're talking again to people who are like, well, let me take a look at my inventory, and we can call those people up and do that. What's the point in spending all that money going to a trade show
right. And the
when
big
we
deal
had
is
that
you can actually
conversation
visit.
2 weeks ago?
Yeah, you can visit them yourself too. The
Yeah.
bigger players. Yeah.
Mm.
All right. Anything else you want to top in here about the industry itself, or comments, observations?
Well, the industry really is a lot of fun. I mean, I always say that if you're in the music industry, you're not enjoying yourself, or it's not something that you really can be in love with. What the heck are you doing? Find something
Yeah.
else. Go
Yeah.
sell
Amen,
pliers or whatever.
brother.
You know,
Amen.
you know Don Bennett. You guys know Don Bennett.
Yeah,
He has a great quote. He said, "Put two or more drummers in a room, and before long, fun breaks out."
Yeah, that's a good line. I'll try to remember that one.
But I know what you're saying about.
Well,
I was at a NAMM show once, and you don't know your own name at the end of a day at a NAMM show.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
standing in a cymbal booth for 8 hours with insane. So like 4:30, I sit down at the kit and I'm closing my eyes and I'm just touching it like this. And Jeff walks up, Hamilton. He says, "Washes off the dust of the day,"
Yeah.
which is
hey,
an
man,
Art Blakey line.
our Blakey line, right? That's it.
And he knew that's exactly what I was doing. I'm not trying to
Yeah.
impress anybody. I'm at a freaking NAMM show. There's great drummers on every aisle. And I just playing soft, closing my eyes, just trying to focus like you were talking about. The music can always lift you.
Yep.
Listen,
Totally
man,
agree.
my whole life has been getting on the airplanes to go. That's the work.
Right.
Then I get to play at the end of the day, and amen for that. It helps everybody escape from the day-to-day BS and especially now, the healing force of music
Right.
is so important. And
Excellent.
it just is kumbaya brings people together.
Adam Nussbaum and the Kumbaya.
That's it, baby. That's it, man.
I'm going to call you that whenever I see you now.
He's been called worse,
Kumbaya.
but just by me.
I've been called worse. It's okay. Well, gentlemen, I wish I was going to be able to go to PAS this year, but I'll be on the road. So
Yeah, I'm not going.
Wait,
either.
how far
I
away
know
are
it's
you
going
going
to
to
be a big one.
It's in Indy.
I'll be in Europe.
Is it an anniversary or something? You say it's
Yes,
a big
yeah,
one.
anniversary.
actually, it's the big one.
PAS.
This is the 50th anniversary of PAS,
Oh.
the organization. Yeah, and there were a couple of times when it was close to folding because
I know.
it took a while for them to really figure out the convention, make that actually something that was worth going to. But for the last 25 years or so, even 30 years, it's been a really worthwhile convention. It's worth going to.
I used to go every year. It was my favorite convention.
You should come again. Come on.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I had business to do there. But yeah, I'm going to come again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can buy
It's
me
going to
dinner.
be in Atlanta or
No.
Indiana? No, it's
Yeah,
in Indiana, right?
Yeah, it's always in Indiana now. They had to make a deal.
Right.
So if I come, you'll buy me dinner, right?
Yes.
Just kidding.
I'll buy you drinks too.
Yeah, we'll have a cigar.
That's actually I get a room that has a veranda every year so that I can sit outside with some people and have a cigar. Yeah.
I've been there with you, buddy. Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I can't thank you enough for the show. We're coming up to an hour. That's plenty.
Yeah.
Yeah, shut up, Andy. Okay.
You got enough of him. No.
No, Andy, it was great to hear your insights and everything. Thank you so much for your, wisdom from the experience, baby. Thank you.
Oh
And
yeah.
I hope we
gotta hang out
presented.
more often.
I hope we presented Sabian correctly, and we didn't diss on anybody else. Adam, we know, is a Zildjian endorser. Nothing wrong with that. And we're all in this little world together, playing music. All right. Anything else anybody want to tag on?
Just keep playing because I mean, if you can play and make a living, you've already won the game.
That's how I look
I
at
just
it.
have gratitude, baby. I just have a lot of gratitude.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm 69.
Yeah.
I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to being 70 so I can say I'm king and 70 years old. I'm playing the drums.
You're 70 already?
Yeah, don't remind me.
No, Vos,
six-
you're looking
I'm
good,
only
though.
69, man.
I'm
not 70.
sorry. That is that extra year.
What
But
are you
now
trying
you're
to
looking
say?
good.
Last time I described Adam as the lovely and talented. Now I'm
I
going to call him.
resemble that remark.
He said he was going to do his hair up special for me.
That's it,
You guys
man.
are good.
All right, we've drifted off into insanity now.
Yep.
Andy, thank you, my friend. I appreciate you being on the show, and best of luck to your
Stop
company.
recording. I got a good joke for Andy.
All right, I'm going to hit the
It is
stop.
that. Okay. It's great to see you guys.
Before we do
Okay.
jokes, let's pause. Thanks for coming, everybody. If you could hear what we're going to say, you'd love it.